Hello and welcome guys to another episode where we'll be discussing the Wise BIM plugin. First off, this is an AI-based plugin guys, and it helps us convert our two-dimensional plans such as DWG files, DXF, PDF, or even images with formats such as PNG or BNP and so on. And basically all of these and many more could be converted into 3D models using this plugin. We can use it to model doors, windows, walls, slabs, floors, and rooms. When we import our 2D files, the elements that I just mentioned would be detected and automatically converted into 3D models. This is a very useful and professional plugin, and it could be extremely helpful, most specifically in a, for example, reconstructional project. Like, for example, let's say we got an old building and we want to convert it into a smart building. Using this plugin, we can create a 3D model for it quite rapidly, guys. And overall, my point here is whenever you needed to convert two-dimensional plans, images, or basically anything into three-dimensional ones, you can use this plugin. Guys, this plugin has its own website. You can enter it for gathering the required information. You can get some support here. For testing the plugin, you can click on download down here and then download the 30 days trial version. This version is obviously free, guys. So this way you can check it out. You can get familiar with it, and then if needs be, you can buy the monthly or annual version. However, guys, remember, if your work demands converting two-dimensional files such as AutoCAD files, PDFs, DWGs, basically anything into 3D files, not only using this plugin would be a necessity, but also it would be somehow a logical choice, guys. So yeah, basically, if you're active in such a field, I highly recommend using this plugin, guys. Now, let me close down this web page and begin our discussion. Let's see how this plugin exactly works. Now, as always, let's begin our work by opening up a new template. Well, I don't think I need to mention this, but, well, you can either go with a default template, or if you have one, you can choose your own customized template. Anyway, let's open up this template. When we enter the workspace, guys, the first thing that we need to do would be inserting some files to work with. Specifically, PDF or CAD files with formats such as DWG or DXF. And for images, the formats should be BNP, PNG, JPEG, and TIF. And also, guys, remember, we should definitely be using import, not link. Well, I mean, to be more precise, we can't really use link. It's not being supported just yet. But this actually goes for all of the files and formats that I mentioned a few seconds ago. All of them, like CAD files, PDFs, and all the formats that we had in images. Now, first, let's see how exactly we can import the files. Now, guys, for importing the formats, for importing DWG files or DXF files, we need to be using import CAD. For example, I'm going to select this DWG file. Down here, we got some settings that we need to go through. For example, colors. One option that we have here would be inverting the colors, or we can just go with normal colors, or we can go with black and white. Now, one point that you need to consider, guys, is the fact that if you have used bright colors, light colors in your CAD files, to make sure that the plugin detects the required elements easier, faster, and better, I recommend setting the color option on black and white. Alright, next up we have layers. Do we need all the layers that we have inside the CAD file, or just some particular ones? If we go with specify here, after clicking on open, a tab would appear in which we would be able to specify the exact layers that we want. Or we can just leave this on all and then specify the layers later on. Then, next up, we can specify the unit system. And guys, make sure that the unit system that you have in AutoCAD has been set correctly as well. For example, if I go ahead and check the distance here, I got 0.2, which means that we got a 20 cm wall here, for example. And this unit system should be in correspondence with the one that we have in Revit. Okay, now back at it again. Through positioning, we would be able to specify a base point, basically. Let's say, for example, we got a DWG or DXF file containing several levels, several plans. Now, let's say the plans are separated, but we have selected a single base point or origin point for all of them. In this case, select Auto Origin to Internal Origin. But if you don't want to consider the selected base point and you want to select a new one, go with Auto Center to Center. To be honest, though, Auto Origin to Internal Origin is a better option, especially, as I said, when the base point or the origin point is already selected in the CAD file, which is mostly the case, actually. For example, I guess our current base point is this one. Alright, after we're done with all of these settings, we can click on Open. And well, just like this, our CAD file would be imported into Revit. Well, this goes for both DWG and DXF files. How about PDF though? Well, click on Import PDF, select the file, and hit Open. Now guys, if your PDF file contained multiple sheets, here you would be able to specify which sheet you exactly want to import. You can either use this preview item to select the required sheet, or you can just put in its number here. Anyway, currently we just got one sheet here. Now, by default, the resolution would be set on 72. To have a better element detection, though, set this on 300. Okay, and all done. Remember, guys, this is just how we can import the PDF file. I mean, we're not done here. We still need to do some other things. For example, we need to control the scale, but more on that later on. For now, though, let's just move this out of the way and see how we can import an image. So, import image, select the file, and open. And that will be all, actually, for importing the images. We don't have any specific settings. Now, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, when we import a file, it could be an image or a PDF or basically any other thing, we might need to control their scales. For example, for these two files, let's assume that the scale has not been specified correctly. Let's see how we can modify that, guys. Now, assume that we got a 30 cm wall here. Now, we can use reference plane. We can even use grid, guys, but I'm going to go with reference plane here. And then I'm going to set a reference plane here like this. Opaque line, 300 millimeters, and set this here. Now, next up, I'm going to select the image, select scale up here, graphical, set a distance on the wall here, then drag it and set it up to the reference plane here. And basically, now we can make sure that the scale has been specified completely correctly. And then we can also pin it down. All right, this was for the image. Now let's work on the PDF file. Remove these two lines. Then zoom in here. Now, guys, when we are working with vector-based PDFs, more specifically, the PDFs that have been created through using software such as AutoCAD or Revit, for example, we are able to use snaps. So, for example, I'm going to activate snaps here. Then, give me measure. Now, let's check what we have here. So, we got a different number. This means that the scale has not been specified correctly. So, exactly like before, I'm going to go ahead and use a reference plane. Pick line, this time 200 millimeters. Set the reference plane. Now select the PDF file. Graphical scale. Set the distance. And then move it up to the reference plane. Now the scale is correct. So guys, don't forget, whenever you imported your images or PDF files, you need to check out the scales to make sure that nothing is wrong. Alright guys, moving on to our next point. Let me remove this. As usually, when we import files with formats such as DWG or DXF, we would realize that the main file actually contains many other files. Like, for example, multiple plans or levels, and, well, they might not even be separated, guys. Like, for example, I selected this plan before, copied it, and then opened up a new file. Paste it here, purged up all the unnecessary and extra items, and basically just cleaned up the plan. Now, as I mentioned, this might not be done all the time. All right, let me import another file here. This time for the positioning, I'm going to go with center to center with normal colors and open. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so first off, the scale is not correctly specified. And as for the second point, let's say, for example, we need this plan. I'll be using measure. This is set on 20,000. So I can select this and change the number from here. Basically try to specify this a little bit better. Let me hide this. The base point is here. Reset. I'll be setting a circle here to help me find this a bit easier. Okay, now I'm going to move the plan to this location. Let's do this again. Measure. Specify the number again. Okay. Should be correct now. Alright, so this was just a reference, so we can remove it now. By the way, guys, I'm sure you already know this as a Revit user, but if you need it, you can go ahead and specify the boundary as you want. Alright guys, this is fairly a large project. I mean, as you can see, we got several plans. Now, if I select the file and try using the plugin, which by the way, after installing would be added to our add-ins tab, the whole file, the entire file would be checked out. Now, to prevent the plugin from making mistakes during the element detection process, and also to make sure that the process would go through faster, we should definitely be activating the crop view from the properties tab, and also crop region visible. After we did this, based on the plan on which we want to work, we can go ahead and specify our boundary, like this, for example. This way, other parts of the file won't be included in the element detection process by the plugin, and as a result, the process will be done faster and more accurately. Now guys, using this technique is actually a necessity when we are working with PDF files, images, or CAD files. And we shouldn't do otherwise, guys. We shouldn't change anything, at least not until the process is completely over and we're done with using our plugin. Yeah, so this is a very important point that we should definitely take into consideration. Now let me remove, well, you know what, let me just open up a new file. A new template, I mean. Now, as I mentioned earlier, guys, you would have access to this plugin from the add-ins tab. Well, I mean, when we install the plugin, it would be added to this tab, but for an easier access, let me move it here. Now, as another point, guys, remember, while using the plugin, you need to be online. Because as I said, this plugin is an AI-based plugin, so in order for that element detection process to go through, it needs to be connected to an online server. So yeah, basically you need an internet connection. Right, now guys, from the Insert tab, let's go ahead and try importing a CAD file. And I'm not going to talk about these settings again. Open. Now, take a look at this, guys. As you can see, some of the elements are being displayed with very bright colors, and this might actually have an impact on the speed of our process. So, what I'm going to do would be importing this file again, but this time for the colors, I'm going to go with either black and white or invert colors. I'm going to go with black and white here. Now, if the layers were set correctly in the CAD file, we would be able to use query here for hiding all the extra and unnecessary elements and items. Now, obviously, by doing this, only the required elements would be included in your element detection process, and well, this would add a lot of pace to your work. And in addition to that, the accuracy will be increased as well. All right, let me hide the elements that I don't need real quick. Okay guys, so this door got hidden as well because it was set in our ramps layer. Don't worry, it doesn't really matter though. For the next step, I'm going to enter the 3D view. By the way, guys, this plugin doesn't really work in the 3D view. So if we want to work with it, we should definitely be inside a floor plan view like this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do next would be selecting the image or the CAD file, whatever. And then, based on what we need, we can select or use one of these items. Now, guys, if you're working with this plugin for the first time, more precisely, if you try using one of these items for the first time, you'll get a message. Let's see what it is. Guys, the message says that the plugin is connected to the server, and now we are able to continue our work. So, select the file. We want to work with walls, so that's why these items are activated here. Now, let's see what we have here, guys. First off, we can specify the height of the walls. Then, as for the base, your base would always be your current level. For the height, though, you'll have several options. I mean, in case you had more than one level. Let me cancel this, actually. And enter one of these views. Now, I'm going to add more levels. Create similar. And I'm going to add this to floor plans. Now let's add these level lines. For example, 4 meters. And another one. And again, 4 meters. Done. Now, select the file again. Detect walls. Now, take a look at this. As for the height, we have several options. So again, current level for the base, selected level for the top. Now, another thing that we are able to do, guys, would be setting the height on a customized elevation code. For doing so, we can select ceiling heights, and then we can type down the exact elevation code that we want. Something other than the elevation code in which the levels are set. But if we just go with upper floor, here we would be able to specify an offset. Through specifying this offset, you would be able to set a gap or a distance or something in between the top of your walls and a ceiling or a beam or something in order to avoid creating collisions in between them. For example, let's say your slab has like 40 cm of thickness to it. So for the offset, you can go with minus 400 millimeters. Yeah, so you can do this as well, but by default, this is set on 0. All right, now let's see what we got here. First up, we got the families of walls, meaning the required wall types. If we set this on yes, we'll get a list of families here where we can select the families that we want. For example, I don't have these walls, I don't need these. I can deactivate them. And the file, we got the walls by 10, 15, and 20 millimeters. So I'm just going to deactivate all of them and down here select this one and 450. Oh, sorry, I mean 150, 200, and 100 millimeters. Let's see what we have here. Generic 200 millimeters. About 150. As you can see, the thicknesses are being detected automatically, and if we didn't have anything for them, they would be created. It would create something for them. Sorry. Anyway, after we're done selecting the walls, click on Launch. Now, take a look at this tab, guys. Several things are happening here. Receiving the input, scanning the data, then sending everything to the server for the process, and then after all of these steps, at the end, we got the item creation. Guys, the speed of this entire process completely depends on the size and complexity of the project and also your connection speed. Like, for example, for a small project, this entire process might be done in a few seconds. But for a larger project, or if you don't got a good internet connection, it might take a few minutes. Now let's check the time here. Less than 1 second for the first step, about 3 seconds for the second step, about 35 seconds for the third one, and again, less than 1 second for the item creation. Now the result is 31 walls. As you can see, we got all the main thicknesses. And as you can see, some new additional types are also created, guys. new wall families with no thicknesses. Now, as I said, we only need walls here that have thicknesses 100, 150, and 200 millimeters. So the rest of them are extra. Well, we can say either extra or inaccurate. Either way, let's close this and do some analysis ourselves. For example, this door here has been considered as a wall, so let's remove it. Delete. I prefer setting a straight wall here, guys. Now, sometimes within the CAD files, there might be some problems with the axis, and we might be getting an error like this. For solving this problem, we can just do a single click on this circular grip that we have here. Next up, I need to do some trimming, starting with single element. Then let's trim this corner. Okay, then we got some more corners up here. The wall here should be 10 cm. Use match properties. Align. These are good. Okay, what else? I can trim. Then split this part. Then again match properties because we need to set a 15 cm wall here. Okay, now delete this wall. Okay, again we have the same problem with the axis up here. So click on the vertices. Yeah, so basically when we have such a problem, guys, we can modify it with a single click. Okay, yeah, I guess this will do. We got a 3D model for this plan now. Now, if you recall, we said that we have 3 extra or inaccurate walls, 3 types. To find them, we can either use filter or schedule. I prefer using schedule here. I find it easier. So from schedule quantity, open up this tab, search for wall, select based on type, and also width. Add and OK. Okay, now open up schedule properties based on width, as I said, and sort the walls based on width. Now let's see what we have. Okay, we need to change the type of this wall first. I'm gonna use match properties for this conversion. Okay, and I guess the rest of these are fine. Yeah, 100, 150, and 200. Yeah, all done. Good. All right, we're done with the walls. Now let's work on the openings. Obviously, by opening, we mean doors and windows. All right, so for modeling the doors and windows in a plan, we need to use detect openings. Okay, so select the item. Then we need to select the file. Well, either this or select the file, then click on the item. It works both ways. Anyway, after doing so, we'll get this tab. As you can see, we got 2 segments, one for windows, one for doors. And if you, for example, deactivate detect windows, obviously they won't be considered or included in our element detection process. Only the doors would be included. And well, obviously the same happens for the doors. Now, up here we can select a type as the default type for the windows. As an example, give me type 1. Next up, we got default height and default sill height. For the height, I'm going to go with 1400, and for the sill height, give me 1 meter. All right, we got the same settings for the doors. First, select the default type, again type 1. And we also need to select a default type for double doors in case we have them. As an example, type 2. Then next up, we have default head height. This means the top of the door, guys. This is actually quite common in some doors, and some specific doors in buildings. For example, in doors that we have inside the bathrooms, they have like 10 cm of base. I'm going to go with 20 to 100. And I guess we're done here. We can click on launch. After doing so, we'll get the exact same tab as before, the one that we saw when we did this for the walls. Oh, and exactly like what we did for the walls, guys, we need to do an analysis when the process is done and apply the required modifications. I mean, we need to check and modify the sizes if needs be, or for example, we can use the type selector to select the correct types. Wait for it. All done. Let's see what we have. According to this table, we got 3 types of windows and also 16 types of doors. Okay, now let's do the checking, guys. For example, this part is extra, we need to remove it. Then this is correct, I guess. How about this one? Also correct, we just need to change its course. Same here. Also here. This needs to be deleted. Then these 2 are correct. Again, change the direction. And all of these are fine. This should be removed. Change the direction and also move it a bit upwards. Okay, up here the window has been detected. How about here though? I guess our file was hidden. Let me check this. I'm gonna isolate this. Yeah, the layers here were hidden, guys. That's why the windows weren't detected. So let's reset this and open up Visibility and Graphics. From the Import tab, find Window. Turn on the windows. Now the windows would be added. Now let's try the element detection again. Select the file. Where is this warning, guys? This message says that this process has been done already once before, and some openings are already detected. I'm going to click on OK here, and then deactivate doors. Select the type. I'm going to change the settings, same settings as before, and then click on Launch. By the way, guys, while this process is going on, you can't do anything in Revit. You just need to wait for the process to be done completely. Okay, now let's check the result, guys. As you can see, the windows are added. However, we need to modify their size, which is quite easy. And well, if any windows or basically any element was missing, we can add them manually. And just adjust everything based on what we need. Okay, what else? I guess we can remove this one. By the way, guys, such areas are detected as windows because they are set in between a column and a cut in the wall. Alright guys, so far we successfully detected walls, doors, and windows. Now it's time to detect the slabs. So, select the item. Now let's select the default type. And after that, we don't have any other specific parameters. It will work on the current level. And yeah, that will be all. Click on Launch. Same process as before, just wait for it to be over. And done. Now it is time to detect the rooms. Before that, from Annotate, let's set a color fill legend based on, okay, let me see what it is based on. Room name. I'm going to go with area. Okay, now let's click on Detect Room. As you can see, all the rooms would be added here based on some specific areas, guys. Let me show you a pre-made or a pre-done example of using this plugin. See, we can create something like this, and we can always add more detail. As I said, guys, using this plugin, we would add a lot of pace to our work. I mean, for creating models such as walls, doors, windows, and so on. Well, as I said, we can always change these based on what we need and basically add as much detail as we want it. Depends on the step or the stage in which you're working in a project. And well, guys, as I said before, it's not all about speed. Using this plugin, you can increase your accuracy in a project. Alright guys, now let's try using the plugin on a PDF file. As a template, I'm going to go with default metric. Alright, let's try importing a PDF file. As I said, guys, for the resolution, go with 300. If you can even go higher, like 600, but 300 will do. Right, let's try opening this file in our viewport. As I said, first off, we need to check the scale. So I'm going to use snap, measure. Let's see what we have. Well, as you can see, the scale is not accurate. So give me a reference plane. Click here, pick line for the offset 200 millimeters. Set the reference plane here. Now select the PDF file, scale, graphical, and then try setting the, let's actually do this on the column. It's easier. So let's do it again. Set the distance. And then up to the reference plane. All right, now let's measure this again. 200, correct. And guys, image works exactly the same. All right, let's set our file here. Remove these two. Select. Pin. Now select again and detect wall. Again, this tab would appear. Here we can specify the top level. And then, we didn't talk about this, I guess, guys. If we set this on no, we let the plugin to create the families itself. And we can specify parameters such as round, numbers, maximum or minimum values. You know what? Let's actually use it, guys. Let's say we don't have any specific types here. I'm going to set the minimum width 100 millimeters. And then for the maximum width, give me 350. Or rather 200. Now, how many types? In our previous example, we had 3. This time, let's go with 5. Yeah, I guess 5 will do. And we can always go with more, guys, like 10. And even the default number was 15, I guess. But I guess 5 is good here. Okay, click on Launch. And wait for the process to be done. Okay, the process is over. Let's close this tab down. Take a look at this. This is a pipe or it's a water exhaust or something, but due to its thickness, it has been considered as a wall. And we still have some more inaccuracy throughout the model, which we need to modify. And by the way, guys, this time the process took a bit longer to be over due to the many bright colors that we had inside the file. And as I mentioned earlier, guys, such colors, the bright colors, make it a bit difficult for the plugin to work. Anyway, guys, that would be all. Let me remove these. Let's say we have an image. For that, we need to use import image. Let me select one. Floor plan. Set it here. Now again, as always, test the scale first. Assume that we got a 30 cm wall here. Use a reference plane. 300 millimeters. Select, scale, graphical, and then try equalizing the image with the reference plane. Okay, good. Now let's set it in the viewport. Pin it down, delete. Now select and detect wall. Now again, I'm going to set this on no. For the minimum width, give me 10 cm. maximum 30 cm with 3 types. Launch. And again, wait for the process to be over, the element detection process, guys. Alright guys, all done. As you can see, we got 3 types here. And now we can start analyzing and modifying our result. For example, I'm going to move this here. Okay, seems like the wall here has not been detected. I guess this happened due to the number of walls that we specified. Let me see, select, create similar, set this on height, second level, try completing this wall. Basically, guys, after we're done with the walls, we need to go through the same process for the doors, windows, and basically any other element that we have in mind. Alright guys, that will be all for this plugin, for this AI-based plugin. Again, you can use it to convert your 2-dimensional files into 3D, very beautiful and high-quality 3D models. And by the way, guys, this is very important. Don't forget this. After you're done using the plugin, don't forget to check and modify the result. Alright guys, we are done with our today's session where we talked about the Wise BIM plugin as completely as possible in a very short time, to be honest. And I highly recommend using this, or well, at least trying it just once. Believe me guys, it's worth it. I promise you'd realize how useful and helpful this plugin truly is. Alright everyone, hope you all enjoyed our session. Don't forget to practice. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.